I'm in a car because... Hello everybody, I'm here shooting on the Irix 11mm lens. And why am I in a car in a beach parking lot? I'm in a car because this lens is very cool, and for some reason, all of the reviews about this lens are about real estate work, which is cool. Real estate work is great. I don't book a lot of real estate work. It's not my niche. But I do a lot of narrative work, and narrative work is my thing, and I don't understand why everyone is not jumping all over the fact that the 11mm Irix, which covers full frame, is amazing for storytelling work in tight spaces. I did a really cool shoot a couple months ago with the 11mm Irix full frame, night wheelies. Here's some footage from that. But I wanted to talk about tight spaces, which is like a really common experience of working on independent projects, working in cars, working in bathrooms, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and how interesting it is that the Irix lets you do that. The tripod is just set up in the passenger seat right now, and I'm getting a view where I can see into the back seat. Like, I could have someone here and someone back there and engage with both of them pretty easily. I could rack focus all the way to close focus. So I could bring somebody up like this. If they were in a detective movie and they were looking at someone across a parking lot, I've got options. I've got all sorts of crazy things that I can do on this lens that I don't know why this isn't what we're talking about. Now, the thing I always have to talk about with car work is, one, you should never have an actor performing while they're driving. I'm not driving right now. I stopped in a parking lot to shoot this. So if you want the actor, like crying or yelling while they drive, tow the car. It's really easy. You can get a tow bar. You can permit this. It doesn't cost much money. Or even better, put them on a process trailer. However, a lot of times we don't have the budget for a process trailer, but we do have the budget for a tow bar where you can tow the car, someone else is driving it. And with a tow bar, you know, you're going to be out on like hostess trays a lot of the time. But what's fun about something like the 11mm Irix is you can be in a vehicle. Now, is there some barrel distortion? Yeah, there's some barrel distortion. It's like, it's there. We could fix it with the pin cushion tools in post. I actually don't mind it. I'm particular about lenses. I don't mind a little breathing and a little bit of gentle distortion because I feel like it has a little personality. Lenses that are like overly crisp and don't breathe at all make me a little uncomfortable. Like the Master Prime was never my favorite. I far prefer the Signature Primes. You know, there's a few other lenses that are like perfect and it freaks me out a little bit. So yeah, there's very little distortion considering it's 11mm lens. I also think this is a fun lens to roll out on stabilizers. This is some shots of Robert Moses, who was a rat bastard and an unpleasant person, and has a statue, but hilariously his statue is like in this parking lot across the street from a gas station, which is kind of appropriate for Robert Moses. And so I got some Steadicam shots. Obviously, this lens is going to be a great moving camera lens. You throw it up in a Ronin, you throw it up on a stabilizer, you run around with it on a Steadicam. It's going to be great for all that. But I feel like people are sleeping on the car work and tight interiors aspect of this. Like, this is just an A7S II, and the combination of that full frame sensor, the really wide field of view, and you can do these sort of dynamite shots you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And so if you're reading an indie feature script and there is a scene in a car where like two people have an emotional heart-to-heart sitting in a parking lot waiting for a train to come, I feel like the 11 is something that you should be like clocking as an option for like keeping the camera in here and up close. Or honestly, just variety. You watch the big filmmakers and they've really thought through car work. Watch the car scenes in Casino. Scorsese and Richardson are all over in their coverage. But then on indie features, you end up like there's like 4 places you can put a camera in a car because of the technology you have access to and the lenses you have access to. And one of the fun things about this is I'm like, oh, even on a little budget thing, I feel like I've got a lot more choices on where I'm going to be able to stick this camera because of the field of view of this lens, which I think is super fun. You also have this angle. This is a fun angle that we never really get in driving. Everything about cinematography and filmmaking is choices that are right for the scene in the moment. And there are scenes and moments where like getting the camera right here is going to be the right decision for where the character is in their moment. And it's fun to be able to feel like you have the freedom to get the camera right there. I'm able to be in focus, have this perspective, feel the closeness to someone. Now, again, do not have an actor drive with this. It's blocking their field of view. If there's an accident, their face is going to fly into it. This is definitely a situation where you want a controlled road, tow bar, but different perspectives, different coverage that you can get. Obviously a great real estate lens, but like a great narrative tight space lens too. This is the other setup I wanted to talk about with the Irix 11mm full, when it's on a Sony a7S II full frame right now. This bathroom, 6 feet wide, something like that, 7 feet wide. I'm about 6 feet tall, so I have a 6 foot wingspan. It goes to about 7 feet. This is like a scenario that shows up so much as an indie filmmaker. It has been written in, so many scripts, or you're reading and you're like, oh, okay, we have a scene, and the character's gonna like have an intense moment with themselves in the bathroom where they're looking in the mirror, or two people have a conversation in the bathroom. Kubrick famously has a bathroom scene in every film. But working in bathrooms is really tough, especially, obviously, New York City, very small bathrooms. Other places, very small bathrooms. So the ability to get in here with a really tiny camera and a super wide lens that gives you this sort of crazy field of view, like an actual wide shot in a tiny little 6 foot bathroom, is just bonkers. So yeah, you guys saw this before, where we were in that tiny, this is a 6 foot space, 7 feet by 7 feet, and we're able to sneak this 11mm up, get like a relatively nice framing, have this mirror moment. You could scoot the camera back, see me and the mirror, or just get this side profile looking over in this incredibly tight space, and then horror movie, right? Somebody's back there or whatever, but like also drama. This shows up so much in so many things, and a lot of times I think people don't think through the ramifications of working in really small spaces. The other thing, if I had access to, is I would show off working in a dorm room with this kind of super wide lens, because that's the other kind of thing where you keep backing yourself into a corner. The script is set in a dorm, and if you don't have the budget to build one with flying walls, you end up shooting in a real dorm, these tight, tiny little spaces, and being able to choreograph these kind of shots into these tight, tiny little spaces is a super benefit, I think. So yeah, the lens is super impressive. I've been super psyched to be playing with it for the last couple weeks, and yeah, I hope you guys keep... I think it's definitely a lens to keep in mind when you're reading through creative on a bid, and you're like, oh, small space. Obviously, outside, you are also getting this incredibly wide, not quite fisheye field of view, because it's pretty controlled on the fisheye front, but you're getting a super wide in normal circumstances. But the thing we forget is that super wide gives us these flexibilities in tight